Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining our Clean Energy Careers webinar tonight. Um, I think we'll give it another minute for people to trickle in, but if you want to put maybe your interest in the chat, there's a lot of different things. We're going to talk about how diverse this field is. So if you have any like career goals or specific interests, I'm interested to see what everybody is here for. Awesome. We have lots of people interested in policy, which we will be talking a little bit about tonight. Um, but yeah, I guess. Ooh, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, this field is definitely very diverse. We're gonna get into all of it in a few minutes. Conservation, awesome. Yeah, thank you all for sharing in the chat. All right, so awesome. Yes, thank you guys. All right. So welcome again. My name is Jackie and I'm an Energy Corps intern with NEST, Network for Sustainable Tomorrow. I'm here with the other interns, especially Lauren and Erin, who are going to help me present today. And Adam Flint is our Director of Clean Energy Programs. And we're going to talk about how to conduct a job search and get advice from our clean energy professionals. So thank you to our panelists for joining us tonight. We're very excited to hear from you all. All right. So if you don't already know, NEST is the Network for Sustainable for Tomorrow. We are a nonprofit organization based in Binghamton, New York, and we work on lots of different programs that work towards social, environmental, and economic justice in the Southern Tier. So some of our programs are listed on the side here. We've got Heat Smart Southern Tier, Southern Tier Solar Works, and Binghamton Community Power. So we do lots of different things and convene those new initiatives and partnerships to outreach and education to build a stronger, more resilient community. And you can learn more on our website, which Alex just dropped in the chat. Thank you, Alex. All right, and here's just an overview of what we'll be talking about tonight. So first, we'll talk about what a clean energy career is. We'll get into the importance and growth of these careers, what specifically employers are looking for when they're hiring. We'll talk about different job boards that you can look for available positions on and networking opportunities. And then we'll finally hear from our clean energy professionals. And I will hand it over to Erin.
Hi guys, so the first thing we want to talk about is what exactly is a clean energy career? So clean energy falls within a range of environmental and climate related fields like you all probably are a little familiar with. Um, so a clean energy career can be any occupation that's associated with conserving energy, developing alternative energy, reducing emissions, management of pollution, or management of resources. Regardless of your educational background and work experience, you can apply your knowledge and skills to a variety of careers in the clean energy field. So today we're going to discuss four main categories within clean energy careers, which are research, technology and development, green buildings and infrastructure, sales and finance, and policy planning and consulting. So research, technology, and development is concerned with developing energy technologies and energy systems. So that's like our utilities and transmission system or battery manufacturing. Green buildings and infrastructure focuses on making buildings greener and more energy efficient. So think like auditing a building or installing a heat pump in a home. Sales and finance is a necessary category that's focused on the marketing of renewable products and services. And finally, we have policy planning and consulting, which provides advice, support, and advocacy for the development of more clean, efficient, and equitable communities. So this could include jobs like environmental planners, and different positions like that. So as you can see, the clean energy field, we need consultants, business and finance experts, engineers, chemists, economists, political scientists, construction workers, and a variety of other skills sets. So there's really a place for everyone in a clean energy work environment. So as a little activity, if you guys could look at the quadrants and or go back to the previous slide. Yeah, thanks, Joe. You guys could just take a look at the quadrants and put the name of which quadrant you see yourself in the future, potentially. Because we'd love to see what sort of interests we have in this call. Okay, now we can move. Cool. Okay. So in this modern age, energy has definitely become a human right and a basic human need. So clean energy careers are essential for the health of our planet and our communities. The most important reasons we want people to pursue a clean energy career fall under the three E's, environment, equity, and economy. So we want to protect the environment while we supply energy to our population. We want to remove the barriers to accessing clean energy and rectify past and current injustices. And we want to shift to a cleaner, more sustainable series of policies and a cleaner economy overall. So we definitely need all hands on deck to get this done. And that's why clean energy careers are really vital. So you might be thinking, though, like, what is the outlook for these types of jobs? And the outlook's pretty good. Nationwide and in New York State, employment across the entire clean energy sector has been continuously growing since 2015, except for 2020 due to COVID shutdowns. But clean energy jobs saw more resiliency and a faster recovery than the overall economy, which is pretty cool. So we have a couple figures here. On the top left, it shows a partial breakdown of employment by sector. And you can see there were 3 million clean energy jobs in 2020, and more than 157,000 of these jobs were in New York State alone. So this number is only expected to keep growing, and it's estimated that if we have a swift transition, which we hopefully will, to renewable energies, we would create 500 to 600,000 new jobs by 2030, with certain wind and solar energy jobs being projected to be like the fastest growing occupations over the next couple decades. So the outlook is pretty good. So something that I know can be very concerning is feeling like you're not qualified or not, like you don't know what skills an employer might need for any sort of job. But the good news is that a lot of skills are transferable, which means that you can use them in a variety of jobs. So generally, we can distinguish between hard skills and soft skills here. So hard skills are certain capabilities that employees need to perform their duties effectively, and this could include like experience with GIS or CAD software, data collection and trend analysis, or like mathematical computation. So some employers might require you to have prior knowledge, but a lot of times you'll find opportunities to learn these sorts of hard skills on the job. So sometimes it's worth applying to a job that you may not be like fully qualified for if you have other strong relevant skills. And then we also have soft skills, which are personal qualities which help you within the workplace environment. So an active passion and awareness for clean energy and equity are essential soft skills which allow for mobility across different jobs in the clean energy economy. And of course, strong communication skills and ability to learn quickly are also really helpful soft skills to have. So, um, definitely being in school can help you learn these hard and soft skills, but it's not the only way. If you're a student on the call right now, though, drop your major in the chat. If you're not a student, uh, give us a little description of like what your work background is and kind of where you're coming from, because we would love to hear. And yeah. So there's many different ways to develop these skills that we mentioned on the last slide, beyond just going to university. Of course, we have trade programs, which we really need more people to be in. Um, there's different research experiences, volunteering, and crash courses are some great ways to develop these sorts of skills. And all of the panelists that we'll hear from later are former Nest interns. At Nest, they honed in on their soft skills and industry-specific knowledge, and which definitely gave them a stepping stone into their clean energy career. So that's certainly a lot to think about, and it can definitely be overwhelming to step straight into the career exploration process or like pick a major if you don't even know what you like or what your strengths are. So if that's the boat that you're finding yourself in, a really helpful tool to help you like figure that part of yourself out is called Focus 2. It's offered through Binghamton. It's a series of self-assessments to help you identify your personality, your values, your skills, your work interests, and jobs that are related to all of these. So you can learn about yourself and a wide variety of careers at the same time through these Focus 2 assessments. And then, once you figure out more about yourself, you can use this site, which is ONET, to do a deeper dive into different careers. So they provide a lot of specific information on what sort of skills and work environments you'd expect to have for different jobs. And there's also a section that is called the sample of reported job titles, which you'll see highlighted on the right. This is really helpful for entering into job search engines because sometimes like one different companies have the same position, but they call it a bunch of different things, and so you don't know exactly what to look for. So this is really helpful so that you know different things that you could put into a job search engine that will give you a position that you're looking for. And then I will pass it over to Lauren to talk about job boards.
Thank you, Erin. So yeah, job boards can be a great tool to help guide your job search. They typically offer position listings filtered by things like location and employment type, and a growing number also offer resources to help job seekers navigate things like networking and obtaining different certifications. So this slide shows a few job boards that can be great places to get started, and we will dive into some others over the next few slides. So Green Workforce Connect offers resources to launch a career in weatherization and home energy performance. This is a great site to visit if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet. There's a ton of useful information to help you learn more about the different types of employment associated with clean energy. Their resource hub provides insight on everything from trainings to industry updates, and you can even complete a simple 7-question quiz to help determine what career path might be best for you in the clean energy sector. ClimateBase, it has a super easy to navigate interface that allows you to filter opportunities by sector, location, and organization. If you create a free account with ClimateBase, you can take advantage of the Get Matched feature to find positions that line up with your experience and goals. You can also sign up for a weekly email that to keep yourself in the loop about upcoming events and new job postings. ClimateBase also offers a fellowship, which is described as being a climate career accelerator designed to help ambitious, mission-driven professionals supercharge their careers in climate and land their next job or start their own projects and ventures. So if that sounds like something that might be useful or applicable to you in your journey, definitely check it out. I know the deadline for like this year has already passed, but it's definitely something to keep on your radar. Climate change jobs allows you to search over 30,000 global positions by skill, employer, or tag, and filters opportunities by location, with a special distinction for remote positions. So if that's something you're looking for, this is a really great site to visit. The Climate Career tab is a one-stop resource center with hyperlinks to other helpful websites and posts for different upcoming events. So you can also sign up for their like e-blast to get summaries of open positions sent right to your inbox on a daily or weekly basis for free. So this can be another really great way to keep opportunities on your radar. Green Jobs List is the premier newsletter for impact seekers. So on this platform, opportunities are filtered by location, and different organizations and internships are spotlighted in each issue. This newsletter format can be really nice because it does the work for you. All you have to do is read through the information when it gets delivered to your inbox. Young Professionals in Energy is another great resource for getting connected to job opportunities in the clean energy industry. The job board allows you to browse opportunities by location and filter by keyword. To best use this platform, you'll need to create a free account, and doing so will actually give you access to their resume support, and it connects you to different networking opportunities in regional hubs. So if you're looking for more of a face-to-face conversation opportunities, you might be able to find them here. So the platforms we've discussed so far are pretty general and show job postings for multiple environmental and sustainability-oriented sectors. Dayaway is a little different. It zooms in specifically on entry-level clean energy careers for interning or graduating college students, and it organizes opportunities by degree, major, and industry. Dayaway is a great tool for college students to sort of discern what type of work they might be qualified to do with their degree. So this could also just be a nice like launching point. You could use this in tandem with some of the other sites we've talked about. So job hunting can be an intimidating process, and networking can make it a lot easier. It can be super helpful to get and keep in touch with people working in the field you want to join. And a few ways to do this is by connecting with your educators or instructors, attending panel discussions like this one, and interacting with folks at tabling events. Being active on professional social media like LinkedIn can also be huge, and conducting informational interviews can be super helpful as well. However you go about networking and marketing yourself, it is really important to stay in touch with the people you meet along the way. You never know how they might be able to help you or how you might be able to help them in the future. And to all Binghamton University students online, take advantage of the institutional resources available to you. The LinkedIn alumni tool is really easy to use, and it allows you to find alumni whose careers align with your goals. Mentor Match is also another really great tool offered through the Fleischman Center that can provide you with guidance and support from alumni working in the field you think you might like to join. Both of these tools are an easy way to expand your personal network in a valuable way. And again, networking can be the key to a successful job search. So Network for Sustainable Tomorrow is collaborating with Zero Hour Binghamton and the Binghamton University Fleischman Center to host an in-person environmental and sustainability career fair. The event will take place on March 25th from 11:30 to 3:30 in Old Union Hall on campus. And it will be a really great opportunity to follow through on some of the tips shared in this presentation. So tell your classmates, your friends, we hope to see everybody there. And yes, we are also hiring. So if you think you'd be interested in joining the Nest team, we do a lot of really cool work. Our goal is to help young individuals pave their path in whatever career they choose by giving them the skills and tools that will be required of them in the business world while working in a fun, inviting environment where they can learn. And I can definitely attest to this. It's been a really great experience. So if you're interested, check out our website to apply. Applications are live. And yeah, I will pass it over to Jackie.
All right, so at this time, we're going to jump right into our panel. I'd like to welcome Anna, Colin, and Evan is hopefully on the call as well. But if you all want to take a minute to introduce yourselves, you can share your name, maybe your education, and your career, I guess your title now, yeah. And Colin, would you like to start?
Sure thing. Hello, everybody. Name's Colin Diamond. I graduated from Binghamton back in 2017. Got my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Up to this point, I've done a whole lot of different jobs in solar. If you asked me 3 years ago, I would have said I've done everything you could do in solar. And now there's so many new things that I don't even know exist and that I learn about every single day. But currently, I am the Director of Estimation and Procurement for a utility and distributed generation scale solar company based in Burlington, Vermont.
Awesome, thank you so much. Anna, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Pertel, and I graduated from Binghamton last June, so it hasn't even been a year yet. And I got my Bachelor's of Science in Biology and Environmental Science. So my degree is more in like the hard science route, but then for my first job that I got out of college, I actually just started in September. I am an environmental analyst with Labella Associates in Rochester, so I'm essentially a consultant. So I help do environmental review if it's required for state or federal, by state or federal legislation for new development projects to basically make sure that they won't adversely impact the environment. So yeah, I'm fresh out of school and this is my first job, so I'm hoping to offer sort of a very updated perspective on the job hunt.
Awesome, thank you so much. I am not sure if Evan is here. Evan, you can speak up if you are here. All right, I guess we can just jump right into our questions then. So the first questions that we have to do with the job search. Tell us about your career path right out of college. Which part of the job search did you find most difficult and how did you deal with it? So whoever wants to chime in or Colin.
Sure, I can take that one first. Honestly, so I worked at Southern Tier through college and also worked for Tatum Engineering out of Ithaca, technology as if the earth mattered. And getting into solar back in 2017, even on an like entry level basis, I had no idea what any jobs were, what was even possible, what existed, let alone what the heck I wanted to do at that time. And so it was a lot of just searching and scrounging and trying to find a foot in the door anywhere. And ended up using like the little bit of sales and lead generation ability that I got with Southern Tier to get my first foot in the door as a sales associate, and sales support, doing like a lot of the technical help and technical support for salespeople at a residential solar company. But I wish I knew any of these job boards or anything existed, and I have no idea how long they existed because I always knew I wanted to be in solar and I knew I wanted to go to bed at night knowing that I helped the world, but I just didn't know what was there. And that's really the hardest part, is knowing what direction you want to go into because there are so many options now. Pass it off to Anna.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off of that. I was gonna say the same thing about coming out of school. It just feels like there's so many options out there. Like even with all the job boards and stuff, like it almost gives you too many opportunities and like too many things to look into. So it can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially for me. Like environmental science feels like a very diverse field, that you can go into so many different things for. So it was kind of like the world was so open wide, and that felt pretty overwhelming. But my process in general was I just did a lot of like internet research and looking at all those job boards. And I just narrowed it down by the location that I wanted to be, which ended up being Rochester. And I just did a bunch of searching online for stuff like that. I also did a couple informational interviews. I used Mentor Match. That was actually really, really helpful. I think informational interviews are like super duper helpful when doing your job search, because you can talk with somebody who is actually in a job that you might be interested in and hear about what it's actually like day to day. So that was really helpful, and the alumni on Mentor Match were very like excited and passionate about their jobs, and so that was really cool to hear. So I did that. I applied to a bunch of different jobs online. I got a couple interviews, but the way I ended up getting the job that I have now is that it was essentially a personal connection. It was a family friend who heard that I was looking for a job, and he works at Labella where I work now, and he was like, "Hey, do you want me to pass off your resume to somebody?" And so I said, "Yes, please." So that personal connection really, really helped. And I ended up actually speaking to multiple people at Labella before I found like the people who were like most suited for my skill set and like the job that was most suited to me. So I think like after I spoke with the first person that I talked to, I thought it was kind of like a dead end. I was like, okay, I don't think that that is like really for me. But then somebody else reached back out and asked to talk to me again. And so I think just like not closing every door that you think might be totally closed is definitely a good lesson that I've learned. But also just like the personal connection, and like I would really recommend, like if you know anybody personally in the environmental field or clean energy field or whatever, reaching out to them is a really, really good first step, because it can be hard to just like put yourself out there at uh like a luncheon or a conference or something to random strangers. So starting off with people that you actually know is very helpful. Um, so yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. So we have another question about how you may have set yourself apart from other applicants during your interview process.
So for this, my piece of advice is pretty simple and it doesn't require any kind of background from anybody. But I don't care if you are 60% sure of what you're saying. I don't care if you're 70% sure about what you're saying. You need to tell it to me like you are 100% confident. Confidence is everything, because if you're not sure of yourself and you're exuding that energy, they pick up on that immediately. And that's, kind of sales 101 is you tell it to me like you mean it, because I'm going to second guess you if you are second guessing you. So no matter what you're saying, no matter how confident you are, don't let anybody read that. Just have faith in yourself.
And I would say, in my experience, for me personally, I'm in consulting, and one thing that they were looking for was like technical writing skills were important. So I had to send them a couple writing samples from things that I'd done in my class. So I ended up sending them like an argument paper about wetlands and another paper that I wrote for an environmental policy class. And I think that kind of helps solidify my position as a good candidate. And so if you're interested in consulting, just know that it's a lot of writing. So make sure that you're interested in that before you get into that field, and that you have things to back it up, that you have solid writing skills. That's my major piece of advice for that.
Thank you. All right, so we can move on to our questions about clean energy careers. We want to know what experiences in college or outside of college, so any classes, internships, activities were most valuable to you at the beginning of your career, and why?
So, gosh, honestly, it's just any kind of those connections you can make, and that's silly of how simple it is. But right out of college, I moved to Colorado, so I knew nobody. I had nothing. I had to try to find and make new connections and get into a career that I hadn't really been into before. What really helped me was having that technical base of being able to read line diagrams, knowing the functionality of inverters and things like that. And so, something that they didn't talk about as like additional education resources that you can take and do while you're in college is there's a website called Heat Spring, and I'll throw it down here. Um, they offer for a few $100s, couple $100, whatever. You can go get different kinds of certifications and take classes and do a whole lot of different things in the renewable energy industry. And they have classes for just about everything, including NABCEP, which is the North American Board of Certified Energy Professionals, which is considered the gold standard for any of these careers in the industry. So lots of easy classes that you can take on there that require no prerequisites, and then you can go take these certification tests so you're coming out of college or coming into the industry swinging.
That's funny that you mentioned that it sounds like more your hard skills were more useful in going into your first job, because I personally feel like my soft skills were what like really helped me at first, and like I felt like those were what my like skill set were, especially from working with Nest and just getting those skills of like public speaking, running meetings, professional communication, um like writing emails and like knowing how to interact with people in real life. I thought that was what really helped me at first. Um yeah. So it doesn't have to be Nest, obviously. I think, but Nest was like a great experience for me. But I think any like real life experience, if you feel like you don't have like super technical skills, like I felt like since my major was environmental science and biology, I had like very good base level knowledge of like environmental science, obviously, but not so much like I took like one GIS class and like, but nothing that was like super hard skill. Um, so yeah, I think just like the real life, real job kind of experience was the most valuable for me.
All right, thank you. Okay, so did you know that you were going to be doing your current job while you were in college? Why or why not?
So I'm a bit removed from college at this point, being that, I graduated 7 years ago now. But if you had told me I was going to be a construction estimator 7 years ago, I would have said, what the hell is that? I had no idea jobs like mine even existed back then, let alone that I'd be doing it. So short answer is absolutely not. And it just kind of shows just how broad the industry is. And, websites like they're showing about, just learning what job titles are, learning what people do is so invaluable, because if you don't know what jobs there are, how are you supposed to know what you want to be doing?
Yeah, I definitely did not know at all, and I still don't know what my like long-term career is gonna be. I just like wanted to sort of dip my toe in a bunch of different things, which is why like I had my experience with Nest, which is a very small nonprofit, and then I figured it would be cool to get like a different kind of experience. So Labella is like a relatively large um corp not corporation, company, I guess. So I just like the idea of kind of trying out multiple different things, and I definitely didn't know what I was going to be doing after college. I started my job in September and I got it. I like got hired in maybe August. And I had graduated in May. So I didn't even know what I was doing right after graduation, so I hope maybe that's a bit reassuring.
Yeah, if I can jump back in on that, I graduated in May, just like you. I didn't have my first job out of college until the end of July, August as well. Like it sometimes takes some time to figure out that foot in the door in these places.
Right. So here's a question about how do you respond to people who say that we can't achieve a clean energy future or don't believe in like the work?
Yeah, I mean, this is always a fun one and something that I have, media and HR on my people on my team to help deal with, but it's largely look outside, see the temperature of this world. We've had, it's the middle of March right now and it's 60 degrees and sunny today. Yes, you get every days like that now and again, but it's not something that should be happening so often. And so, while achieving a perfectly clean and sustainable future is always a goal, it is something that every single human being needs to at least do a very small part of, because the only things you have control over are what you do every single day. And if everybody is in control of what they're doing, we can all make a difference at the end. So it's always achievable, if not 100% so. Just doing those bare minimum small things, go get your 5 cents back on that can. You did some good there. So just everything you can do. If you don't think it's possible, you're not trying and you're not really worried about your children's futures.
I think what gives me hope is like looking at kind of the bigger picture and seeing how much sense it makes to move towards a clean energy future rather than what we have now. Like what we have now is just not sustainable, obviously, in so many ways. And renewables are becoming so much cheaper. They're trending, like their prices are trending downward so much that it's going to become like it's going to make so much more economic sense. Like it makes economic sense now to invest in renewables rather than regular fossil fuels. And we already have the infrastructure for the like electrical grid. We just have to probably update it a little bit and improve it, obviously, but like it's there. We just have to make it a little bit better. And there's so many co-benefits to renewable energy, like the lower air pollution, better health outcomes. It just it makes so much sense in my mind, and I think people are really starting to see that.
Great, very well said, both of your answers. All right. What can we do as individuals to inspire more people to embrace clean energy in the field?
I feel like that just comes back to being the best advocate you can, even for yourself. Pick up that little bit of litter, go recycle that can, point out the solar systems on houses on the way by, and just, get excited about it. Like, I got into engineering and I got into solar because it all just seems like magic to me. Like I flick this switch on the wall and the lights turn on. We're turning sunlight into electricity that now lets me go play on my computer all night. Like it's magic, and just having that little bit of childhood excitement about the world that we live in, it's really cool. And if everybody can stay excited and ready to keep going and trying to just better this world that we live in for everybody else, it all becomes a much easier place.
Yeah, I really like that sentiment, and I totally agree. I think giving people hope just in general is a lot more powerful than scaring them. Because if you scare people about climate change, they might believe it, but they also might just give up. And so I have a lot of hope about the future, and I just hope to spread that to other people. And like I'll do things like share reels that I see on Instagram on my story. Like it sounds so silly, but like people watch it. Like people get their information from social media for better or for worse. But if you can put something out there that people are going to watch and spread important knowledge and hope to other people, then I think that's really important.
Really great. Thank you, guys. All right, so we do have some more questions, but I think we can turn it to a Q&A now. If anyone has questions, you can drop them in the chat or just unmute yourself or raise your hand and I'll call on you if that's better.
I mean, and while it's still quiet here too, I'll say to everyone here, I'm happy to be a resource for each and every single one of you. So if anybody wants to look me up on LinkedIn, shoot me a connection. I'm happy to, just talk, troubleshoot, review a resume. I've been doing this for 10 years now and have a really good foot in the door in a lot of places. The industry is small, so I'm happy to be that first connection and your foot in the door. And
Right. So there is one question, and I'll just clear that up, that we're planning to send the slide deck and all the resources in a PDF to all of your emails tomorrow morning. And then Anna, maybe you want to answer the question from Alex?
Yeah, sure. I also want to, I second what Colin said. I would also be willing to be a resource for anyone. I know I have a lot less experience, but feel free to reach out if you want on LinkedIn, or I can put my email in the chat. Yeah, Alex, that's a really good question, asking about like the difference between working at a larger company versus Nest. It was vastly different, I will say. I had like 40 hours of training videos to watch or something crazy like that. But I think a lot of that was just like general like interpersonal like safety training as well. In terms of actually like learning how to do my job, it was mostly just like me doing it, like them showing me examples of reports they've done and how you might go about writing something, and then me just doing it. So like the actual job itself was more like that. And I would say in terms of fostering continuous learning, I feel like that totally depends on your boss. And my boss is really, really great at like making sure that we are like are continuously learning and not just staying stagnant in like even just how we're writing our reports, and like making sure like if people have ideas for how to improve stuff that we are, and also making sure we're like continuously reading over the like legislation and the regulations that we need to be following. And also I have gone out of my way a couple times to like make sure that I'm getting the most out of this experience that I can. So since Labella is a big company, there's a lot of people that you can talk to like learn different skill sets. So for example, I wanted to learn how to do something on GIS. Like it was something that my team had to always kind of ask other people to do. And I was like, it would be really cool if I could learn how to do this. So I just asked one of our GIS specialists to teach me how to do it, and she did. And I've pestered her a lot with questions about like making sure I'm doing it correctly, but I learned how to do it. And I think that that is a big benefit of working at a bigger company that I've seen, is just like there's going to be somebody that specializes in whatever knowledge you need, or you can always just ask a question to somebody, or they can teach you how to do something. Yeah. So there's obviously benefits to working at a smaller company too. And I love my time at Nest because it was so much more fast paced. But that is one of the benefits of a larger company.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Adriana asking, how did you prepare for your interviews?
I think honestly, something easy that anybody can do is research the company you're interviewing for before you go in there. it really does make a difference. Largely in the renewable energy field too. And, if you're looking at these smaller companies, because a lot of them are very values driven and they're going to have, messages across their websites and messages everywhere. And they're going to ask you about, why do you want to work for them in particular? There are enough jobs in the renewable energy fields right now that we can't fill them. And so you have the opportunity right now in a field to be very picky about who and where you want to work. And I highly advise everybody do exactly that. And at the same time, know who you're applying for, look up who you're interviewing with that day on LinkedIn, see their experience, try to find those common grounds, any kind of shared interests. Make yourself a person rather than just a number.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. Like one of my first job interviews, like the person asked me a question like, do you know what a phase one environmental assessment is? And I felt really silly, but I had to say no. I didn't want her to quiz me on what it was, but I didn't know what it was. And so I think if I had just done a little bit of digging to like see what this woman's role was and what she was involved in and like what her team did, I would have been a lot better prepared for that question. So definitely knowing the company is really helpful. And I also have just like Googled like typical interview questions because like a lot of companies ask the same question. Like just like to know off the top of your head, like what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Like what are you gonna say if somebody's asking you that? Even if they don't ask those exact questions, like it could be very similar and at least you have something going in your head about like topics that you might want to touch on. And also like if you have like something impressive that you want to make sure that they know about you, like making sure you sort of integrate that in there somewhere and like knowing that that's something that you want to talk about. I think just like feeling prepared, like you're never going to be perfectly prepared, but like feeling prepared about like about their company and like your own strengths and weaknesses will just like make you a lot more confident and that will translate into a better feeling interview.
Great, thank you. Oh, Colin, did you have something to add?
No, I was just going to jump over to Don's question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, is the short answer. You see, especially like in solar racking, to use as one example, a lot of the racking systems are very simple or very similar, but also pretty different. And they all use similar technology, but one might be better suited for something than others. And so a company such as APA, they make a solar footer that then can go into an A-frame and be used for 30 different racking vendors out there. And alongside of that, a piece of advice I can say is do not burn any bridges in the solar industry if you have any say over it, because it is a large and growing industry, but at the same time, it's very small. It's very rare you have an instance where you don't know somebody that worked at that company at one time and has an opinion about them, or you have shared friends with somebody over there at that company. It's a large industry, but very small in that sense. So if you can keep bridges open, it's really in your favor.
For that question, I'm again an entry level position. I don't have a lot of knowledge about that in terms of competition, but I will say like we at Labella do work with a ton of other, like we have to work with a ton of other companies on a bunch of projects. Like sometimes Labella's hired because Labella is an engineering and architecture firm primarily. So a lot of times we'll be working with other engineers and architects from other firms. That happens all the time. So I don't know generally if that's, I mean, I assume that's common. I don't know how people feel about it, but I will say there's a lot of collaboration with other organizations.
All right, thank you both. I know there's another question that I lost. Dawn asked about, no, we just talked about that, my bad. Um, Vindia asked about the best resources or websites to stay up to date on what's happening in clean energy. I know Adam responded to that, but if either of our panelists have recommendations for that.
So I am in solar, and so being in the procurement side of solar as well, I'm sometimes ordering 50, 60 megawatts of panels at a time. So put that in like perspective, that's like 60,000 solar panels trying to come into the US at any given time. And so trying to stay on top of governmental policies and what's going on in the industry and what's coming up and when this tariff is expiring and what I need to do to safe harbor a project. Lots of fancy terms to say that SEIA, the Solar Energy Industry Association, is one of the absolute best like industry associations that I've ever seen. Given that solar kind of is still looked at as this leftist idea, and renewable energy, you have to be liberal to get into renewable energy, is this dying, conversation, but it still exists. And so SEIA has been a great resource to putting all of those conversations to bed, but also because they are very well funded by the industry, they are on top of absolutely everything and have a very big voice in what policy changes are going to happen. And so getting on the SEIA newsletter and everything is immensely helpful, and they have free webinars that they put on all the time. There are local chapters of SEIA that you can be more a part of. I was in Colorado for the last 6 years, so it was COSA out there, the Colorado Solar and Storage Association. Adam, I'm sure there's one here in New York too. I do not know what their acronym would be. But any kind of industry associations are always going to be something awesome to follow.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not like in the specifically renewable like energy field. Like I do work on like large scale renewable projects, but I also have like a wider scope of work. But for me personally, how I stay up to date with like kind of environmental stuff in my area is that I'm from Rochester, and one of the big sort of environmental organizations in Rochester has a Slack workspace that people share a lot of resources. Like people will just share like links to articles and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's definitely something that I don't know if it exists everywhere, but it's definitely a cool thing to keep up with like local things as well.
All right, thank you. We have a question about, sorry, do your jobs changed often? And if so, how do you continue to adapt your knowledge and skills? So kind of jumping off.
This is a hard one for me because I do something different every single day. And it's been a lot of, flying by the seat of my pants. You have to stay on top of everything. The kind of industry term in solar is you're on the solar coaster. It's going to have, it's incredibly busy. Everything's on fire. You need to help do everything now. And then it has its times where it slows down a little bit and it's all peachy keen and you don't got to worry about too much. So staying on top of it is a lot of, just kind of stress management, at least for me, because I have those days where everything's on fire, and when you have 30 things that are the number one priority, nothing's the number one priority anymore. And you have to really learn to leave that stress at your job, because if you take that outside of that workplace, it really ruins the rest of your relationships and everything you're doing in life. So I'm turning this into a bit of life advice, and I apologize for that. But what you do for work is by no means ever a reflection of who you are or what you're doing as a human being. And so don't take that with you when you leave an office or when you shut your computer off. it'll be there tomorrow. You know, it's not a reflection on you.
Can you repeat the question, Jackie?
Yes.
Sorry, I got a little lost. That was really great advice, but I forgot the question.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you. The question is, does your job change often? And if so, how do you continue to adapt your knowledge and skills?
Okay. So again, I've only been working since September, but I have had to do so many different things in my role. Like every single week, there's a new thing, like new different kinds of reports that we have to write, or new different types of projects that we're working on. So I've worked on like there's a lot of affordable housing projects that I've worked on. There's like the large scale renewable, like utility scale renewable projects. Those are really cool, like school district projects. Um, and I guess like just kind of using my like problem solving skills, I'm able to get through all of them. And a lot of times, like even my boss or like my coworkers haven't had to deal with some of these like whatever issues may come up before. So we're all kind of just trying to like collaborate and figure out the best way to go about things. Because I mean sometimes maybe there'll be like a species that comes up as endangered and you've never had to deal with it before, um or just like other issues that might come up. So I definitely lean a lot on my coworkers and my boss to try to like bounce ideas off of each other, um and ask other people like I was talking about before, all the experts that we have at my job. There's such a variety of people that we can ask. Um so yeah, that's how I generally go about it.
I think the hardest thing in this industry is you never know what you don't know. And as much of a cliche as that is, a lot of these situations and things you're going to go into, you're going to think you know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, you don't. And that's okay as long as you're willing to learn and try. Nobody's going to fault you as long as you're doing your best and you're asking questions.
Great, thank you. I have sort of a fun question. I know Anna, you haven't worked for too long, but for the both of you, is there any project that you can think of that stands out as like something you're very proud of that you've worked on? Just like one thing in particular?
So I did residential for a long time and then went into the commercial scale. And one of my projects in Colorado is like 500 kilowatts of solar on two buildings that don't exist. You know, the kind of governmental buildings that are grayed out and blurred over on maps and don't have an address and you can't ever find if you need to, you know, and that's something really cool that I can't really say more about, but it's something fun. And now that I'm on the side I am now, where I'm doing the distributed generation, which is like 5 to 10 megawatts of solar. So think like 10 to 100 acres of land covered in solar panels. Um, we just are finishing up a project at Middlebury College in Vermont that is very challenged. One of my coworkers, this project was supposed to be done while they were out on maternity leave. They now have a 3-year-old, and we are almost finished. And so just it's very satisfying to see the immense challenges finally finished and coming to a close. And that project at Middlebury College is one of those.
I can focus on a couple of renewable energy projects that I've done because those actually were super interesting, and also because this is a clean energy careers webinar. So I worked on a large scale wind project, and the part that I worked on doesn't sound super glamorous, but basically we had to write these memos that were summarizing the essentially the application that the developer had written. We had to basically summarize the whole application in terms that normal like townspeople could understand so that the town board could come up with issues that they were worried about and make decisions on whether they wanted to allow this project to go on in their town. And it was a wind project that was across like 5 different towns. We were working with multiple attorneys on it. It was just like very big and very complicated and felt very overwhelming. And we had to like flag any issues that we saw in the application. So for me, I was a little daunted by it because it felt very complicated. But we did it, and we provided all the information that the town and the attorneys needed to know. And that just felt really satisfying. So it might not sound like the most like exciting project, but it was really cool to just like dig into the application, and like for me, like really learning about how wind projects are cited and developed was really interesting, because that was kind of my goal of my first job, was like learning as much as I can, just like absorbing everything that I see so that I can kind of take it forward in my career. So that was really rewarding.
Thank you. All right, we've got another question from Adriana. Do you think it's necessary to get a master's in environmental science, or should a bachelor's still suffice? It sometimes feels like a master's is the new version of a bachelor's.
I have a little bit of a hot take on education, and I know I have a bachelor's myself, but once you are in the field, nobody cares anymore about what your degree is or what your education was. They care about what you're doing at the moment in the job. And so see your degree more so as an opportunity to gain knowledge and to open that first door. And then once that door is open, it's really up to you what you do with it. So my short answer is really no. It's good to open a door, but other than that, a master's degree, once you're actually in the field, doesn't mean as much anymore.
I would say I don't have enough experience to speak on this. I got my job with a bachelor's, and I think I'm pretty sure a lot of my coworkers who have been working at Labella for multiple years also only have bachelors. So I think like if you find a good job that you like out of college with a bachelor's, that's definitely very possible. But I haven't like found any job that I would be like in love with that requires a master's, and like it's necessary to get a master's. I also know Adam is very passionate about higher education. I don't know if you want to let him speak on that.
I got one more hot take before Adam tells me to shut up. I have always said that if I'm going to get my master's, that, because education's expensive, why should we all go into all of this debt to just open one door? If I'm ever going to get my master's, it's going to be because the workplace that I'm at wants me to get it. And if they care that much, they will pay for it. And that's really something in the industry. If you want to get that higher education, they have paths for you to do so that will be employer paid typically. If they really do care that much, they're going to help you get there and make that investment into you.
Yeah, so I would say that a very non-scientific sample that there are a great many jobs that are just as Colin and Anna talked about and have been experienced. There are certain jobs in policy where they are going to demand a master's, but it's not required for going into the industry writ large. And I'd also say, one way to test out if you are in the private sector, because it's largely the private sector that would pay for your master's, right? That's unusual that you will find a government job or a nonprofit that would do that. But if you're at a company that really values advancement and wants to keep people who come in as entry level or junior level with the company, that's a good sign, right? If they're willing to shell out that kind of money for you to get a higher degree, they're basically investing in you and wanting you to stay. They don't want you to get a master's and then go, right? I guess the other thing to say is that it's a two-edged sword. As you get older, it's more challenging to, put in a year and a half or 2 years to get an MA. On the other hand, you will probably have a little bit more cash lying around to do that. I will say that I think it's very important to be circumspect about how much you spend on any graduate degree. My passion that Anna's referring to, I think, is that I am one of the stiffest critics of PhDs under 90% of circumstances. There are the other 10% where, yes, you should go and you should do that. But going into a graduate program because you're not sure what else to do is a terrible idea.
And I kind of want to echo that sentiment. I do have a few policy workers at my company, and they are all lawyers. And I don't think you can get into law school without a master's. I don't know what that path is.
You can. You can. It's just getting to law school itself is a incredibly expensive proposition. And, with the policy space, I certainly know plenty of people that have whatever degree. There are people that go in without a master's. And in addition to law, there are all these programs like masters in sustainability, masters in policy and planning. So there's increasing numbers of master's programs. The sustainability program at Binghamton has the advantage of being 4+1 if you want it to be. On the other side, it's a relatively new program. If, on the other hand, you go to get a master's in environmental management at Yale, you will spend money, but the networking connections and the education itself seems to be worth it. One of my earliest employees went there, and she's pulling down the big bucks as a consultant, working with the New York Power Authority and utilities and whatnot. So there's just so many options, and I guess unless you're really sure about the masters you want to go into, if you can get a job in the industry and spend some years, you'll be that much better prepared to choose a master's and to take advantage of it, right? But everybody's circumstance is different. But I would say, no, you don't have to automatically get a master's to go into the clean energy field. Absolutely not. And we're leaving aside the two largest areas here, right, which is not typical for people who go and get bachelor's degrees, which is the trades and manufacturing. There's a lot of jobs there for which you do not even need a college degree, but you do in fact need a lot of training sometimes, which you get paid to do sometimes if you're getting a union apprenticeship.
Which there's going to be a whole lot more need for, especially with new policies that are coming up in the US around tax credits and domestic content adder tax credits. That this last round of the Inflation Reduction Act that went through, in order for solar projects to be getting the 30% tax credit, you have to be paying, these electrical contractors and everything prevailing wage, which also includes apprenticeship requirements. And so there is a very large and very quickly expanding need for electrical apprentices and, civil apprenticeships. And, even in the factories producing racking, you can go get apprenticeships in metalworking if that's something that interests you. There is that whole other side of it.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you all so much for that answer. That was a very important question. So thank you for asking that too, Adriana. All right, so we now have Evan on the call, who is our third panelist for tonight. Hello, Evan. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi.
If you'd like to share your name, well, we know your name, but your education and maybe your career path.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Evan Bixby. I've got a bachelor's degree in physics from SUNY Cortland. Kind of got into renewable energy kind of on accident in college. Originally wanted to be a high school physics teacher, dropped the kind of education part of the degree. They said, well, we don't actually have enough upper level physics courses for you to take to complete your undergrad. So here, take some of these sustainable energy systems courses that are a part of the physics program. It'll get you your degree and, see you later, right? And absolutely fell in love with the subject. And so got my first kind of role in renewable energy, working at the nonprofit here. Back then, it was called Southern Tier Solar Works. It was primarily a solarized campaign, and of course, traveled all over the state doing that kind of work. But the thing that I really valued about that position was the amount of exposure to how many different parts of the industry it actually let you do. So stuff like issuing RFPs, accounting and budgeting, public speaking, presentation, salesmanship, policy analysis, even renewable finance, and how to negotiate a land lease, stuff like that. Right, that's really important in the solar development world. After that, worked there for a few years. Then I moved to Pine Gate Renewables, and I just recently left Pine Gate back in January as the vice president of market strategy and commercial analytics. So basically, what I was doing there was trying to figure out how do we kind of most effectively site renewable energy projects across the U.S. and how do we actually get these renewable energy projects to participate in the electricity market in the way that's most profitable for those resources. So looking at really cool interactions between transmission, land and geography, solar resource, battery storage potential, and how that actually impacts all the market rules and economics across the grid. And so that was a really, really fun role where I was working with a team of data scientists, chemical engineers, finance folks to really, and electricity market experts to really be able to model the grid and kind of forecast, what do we think that electricity is going to be worth into the future? It's this whole kind of subfield of renewable energy finance where you need to be able to tell a bank, hey, this is what my expectation is of what this energy is going to be worth into the future. And then you usually have an argument with the bank to say, these are all the assumptions that went into this modeling. This is how this works to get them to give you financing to go build your multi-$100 million renewable energy project somewhere, right? And so, the finance side of things, the legal side of things, policy, the actual physics and how does the energy flow and electrical engineering happen across the energy grid are all, really cool pathways that you can go down. And all that I really did was just follow my curiosity my whole career. So kept finding new little ways to optimize projects. So really being able to dive into that business model and understand, here's what makes this project valuable. Here's how we can enhance that. Is a really important skill for you to have. But renewable energy development, I mean, there's literally every single type of person, every single type of role or job that you would have at a normal company, plus a whole bunch of extra ones are in renewable energy. So there's a lot of opportunity kind of no matter what you're studying, in my opinion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Evan, I'll ask you, how did the Nest internship impact your career readiness, or maybe what did you take away from, or the Southern Tier Solar Works when you were an intern?
Yeah, there was so much. It was a really fun time because it was when community solar was just starting to take off in New York State. So there was a whole lot of work that we were doing around community solar just to figure out, how does this thing work? How can we kind of turn this into a product that people would want to engage with, given that we had that backlog and just that type of systems-based thinking, that type of analytical policy work, and being able to really get your hands dirty when it comes to what the policy means, how it actually gets created, and thinking through not just the policy, but also the economics, the technical, the finance side of how those projects actually get built. It's a really strong foundation for me to go to a renewable energy development shop and be able to pick things up and move quickly. So, with a lot of this, there's no such thing as an auteur, right? Everyone's going to have their different specialization, but there's so many aspects. There's always a new thing to go learn about when it comes to renewable energy development.
Great, thank you. And Colin and Anna, would any of you like to chime in on things that you've taken away from the internship that have helped you in your career?
So when I was with Southern Tier, I was in the same year that Evan was there. I did a lot more of the outreach and working events and things like that. And I feel like it goes back to one of the very first things I said of just, learning how to speak with confidence and learning how to engage with these communities and engage with people in a way that they can comprehend and keep their interest. because that's key. You know, you go to a lot of these town meetings and you go to develop these projects, and the only people that go to a town meeting are the ones that want to stop you from doing it. So learning how to have those conversations in a healthy way and keep people engaged and excited and wanting to do things was an absolute wonderful thing to begin learning how to do.
I kind of spoke to this before, but I think like the soft skills for sure is what I gained the most from Nest, and specifically like the public speaking and presentations were really important. I think just being able to convey like scientific concepts to normal people who are not necessarily scientifically minded, I think is really beneficial. And people are definitely looking for those like scientific communication skills in general.
Yeah, that's typically a whole at a renewable energy company, a whole role just a project manager, and your job is just to go to, or sometimes they'll call it like a siting or zoning manager, permitting manager. Your whole job is just to go to counties and town boards and things like that, where you're trying to build a project and just get yelled at by a community and try and convince them to let you build that thing. And even outside of renewable energy, you see this in just about any um, industry that goes out and builds stuff on land. So it's a very transferable skill set. So, being able to do it on a solar farm is very similar to doing it with a data center or some other large project. So it's very liquid across the job market.
And I want to add on to that, Evan, just because I'm in a very similar role. I feel like it's pertinent to say that a lot of the reason they oppose things like this is just misinformation. They either that or they think solar is ugly. Doing projects primarily in the state of Vermont, I get a lot of, I moved to the country to look at cows, not solar. And so you put up some screen plantings and things. So it's a lot of, meeting people in the middle, helping out the community, because that's the end goal, right? Where we're not coming in here to take a family's piece of land that they've had there for 100 years. We're going to give you lease money so that you can keep it in the family for another 30 years, have some income stream, and we're going to help reduce everybody's electric costs by getting the solar on the grid in this area. So a lot of it is just kind of keeping that misinformation to the side and educating people all over again.
Yeah, thank
I think
you.
one of my favorite intersections, just thinking of like a weird job that you might not think exists within solar world, is a regenerative agriculturalist. So we have some projects, particularly in the Southeast, North and South Carolina, as well as up in the Pacific Northwest, up in Oregon at my previous company, that actually did sustainable agricultural, regenerative agricultural practices underneath the solar farms to try and make the best use of the land. And that was something when I heard of that, I was like, yeah, that's so smart, but it's a job that there's a huge shortage of right now, right? Like if we wanted to do this in every state, there wouldn't be enough agriculturalists to be able to actually implement this. Not enough seed stock, not enough labor, all those kinds of things to actually do that. So there's lots of niche opportunities within this industry where there are like some really cool, more nascent business ideas that if people can go and focus and figure out how to scale that, can provide really wide scale impacts across the entire energy system.
To throw on to the agrivoltaics too, and to take it like a little bit different way, it all of these systems are gonna keep, like as grass grows, as whatever you plant underneath these systems stabilize the ground, whether it be local pollinators to help the bees keep growing, you're eventually going to need to mow it down. But it also created a space for, sheep grazing, because your wires are either going to be underground or protected in a cab system. So rather than mowing these down, you're helping local sheep farmers come in and get the grass down. And it's really this whole ecosystem of shared profit and shared, resources, because it gives them one that they didn't have before. And it's just different kind of agrivoltaics.
And it's cheaper usually, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Really cool points, guys. Thank you. All right, so we're coming up on our time here. But I wanted to ask each of our panelists, if there's one thing you hope the audience takes away from this webinar, what would it be? And we can start with Colin again, if you don't mind.
Information's gold. Check out the job sites, see what job titles are, learn what you can do in the industry, because I didn't know what 30-90% of these jobs were on the development side, and it's a really cool place to be. But also don't be afraid to go try something new, get out of your comfort zone, apply for that job that you might not think you're necessarily qualified for, but if you've got some transferable skills, you still have a way to get in. So just have confidence in yourself is really what it comes down to.
Maybe Anna wants to take it next, and then
Sure. I mean, there's so many things that I could say, but also I'm only in my 6th, 7th month of working. But I think like if you're someone like me who was just coming out of college and like not really knowing what you wanted to do, like personally, I found it helpful to think that like your first job is just a first job and like it can just be an experience. Um, and sort of framing it that way as like a learning experience. It might not be like the most perfect job ever, but it will be something. And then you can always do like more research on the side to see what might float your boat a little bit more. Um, so that's less like clean energy related and more just like general job search related. But I think that that was something really helpful for me to internalize.
yeah, that is great advice. Thank you, Anna. And Evan.
Well, I guess, when I think about the energy system and I look out over the next 5, 10, 15 years, I think it's going to be one of the biggest growing industries on the entire planet. So, they're going to be needing these kinds of renewables, not just here in the US, but all over the world. And so, personally, my goal is to figure out, how do we get to 100% renewables as fast as possible, and then we can all retire and go live on a beach in Tahiti somewhere, right? So as we look at the way that system is going to evolve and grow, from a system that's more reliant on fossil fuels, coal and natural gas style resources, to more inverter-based resources, there's going to be all kinds of new technologies, new ways to control the system, control the grid, new ways to interconnect and integrate things into the grid. And to me, that just presents so much opportunity for this industry to really go out and innovate and figure out how to not be the problem child, as it's kind of labeled a little bit today. So it's just an industry where there's so many opportunities. The reason I love it is every day I'm working on a new problem. It seems, from land use ordinances to legal contracts to permitting and zoning to interconnection to financial modeling. There's to the actual construction side, and then the actual operations and maintenance side of like, what do you actually do with that project once it's in the ground and producing energy. There's so many pieces. Think about like the entire life cycle of how you build something. And I'm sure that there will be something in there that, given your unique skill set, you can go and add a lot of value to. So.
All right, great. Thank you all so much again. Thank you, our panelists, for coming and talking about all of your experience and giving your perspectives, and to everyone for attending. Hope this was helpful. Joe, if you can put up yeah, perfect. Thank you. So here is our contact information. You can connect with us on social media or reach out to us directly if you have any questions. And keep an eye on your email tomorrow, because we'll send out this presentation as well as some other resources for you all. So yeah, thank you all, and good luck with your career search, everyone.